Yes.
You mentioned earlier that you put it out on Twitter before when you couldn't sell it. How did you do that? Did you put like each sentence as a tweet, or did you link to different, like, in what format did you?
Sure. So I came up with the idea about what had happened. Is the long story is I had this book I believed in, and I sent it out to a bunch of publishers. They all rejected it. I spent 3-4 months editing it. Then we resubmitted it to about 12 or 15 more, and some would say, "Oh, we like it. We'll look at another draft." So about half of those had rejected it, and I was like, "What can I do?" You know, there's such a feeling of impotence in those situations. And I said, why don't I put it on Twitter? I was using Twitter increasingly myself, and honestly, it was hot. It still is hot, but it was like the hot thing to do. So I had this idea a couple weeks before Bastille Day. French Revolution, Bastille Day. It was kind of the perfect non-holiday. It's a slow news day too, which really helped. But logistically, I had this idea, and I didn't want to just kind of type all day or cut and paste all day long. And I was having lunch with a friend of mine who's an engineer who works at Pandora, internet radio. And I said, I'm thinking about tweeting out my novel. And he's like, oh, I could. And I was kind of feeling him out for, is there a way to do this automatically? And he said, I could write a little code and have you, which is what I was fishing for, so he picked it up perfectly. And I was like, that'd be great. He actually runs the open mic night down at the Utah. Do you guys ever go there? J.J. Schultz, bald guy, he performs all the time around town, musician. Great guy, obviously. 3 days later, he had a back-end system where I could drop in any level of text and it would chunk it off to the nearest word. So it wouldn't do complete sentences, but it would do it would not cut in the middle of a word. You could add hashtags, you could add a link. I experimented a lot. I didn't know what would work or be useful, and I never expected anyone to actually read it on Twitter. But I felt, my sentences are pretty packed with energy, so if you got a sense of just a few words that rose something in you, you would want to click through to see more. So that was the strategy. And toward the beginning, I was kind of timing it with the American workday. I'm like, we'll start at 6 a.m. Pacific, which is about work, and then end it at night, when people go to bed. At the end, I just had it going around the clock because people were tuning in all over the world, which was pretty cool.
How long did it take for it to all go out?
4 months. It took 4 months to go out. And as one guy told me at the end, it felt like I read the Cliff's Notes version, which I think is right. You kind of get a feel for it, but you can't possibly follow along. I mean, unless you have way too much time.
You should sell it program.
He would offer, if anyone wants to use it, you let me know, because other people have contacted me about doing that, and it's free to use. It's just, I'll send you the link, and it's actually like theutah.org/Twitter or something like that, and you can sign up automatically. I'm not sure it would work again, though. I think that kind of angle is kind of played now. It's got to be new, you got to think of the next thing. Are you guys writers? You guys working on stuff, right? Yeah? What are you working on?
Stuff.
Okay, you can put me on the spot. We're here, so figure we can talk. Does that answer your question? Is that useful?
Oh, yeah.
Anything else? That's it?
Well, if you guys are writers, any tips on writing, or I don't know, how long did the book take you to finish?
Probably took 5 years.
How long did it take to find the agent? Your agent?
God, what a process. I got progressively a better writer as I wrote the book. I actually have a novel before this, which I got to the 7th draft on and realized it just wasn't good enough. And it felt good to let go of that. Actually, you could think, like, you put years into this, you'd be devastated. But I actually was like, I've gotten better, and I can realistically tell it's just not that good. Right. So it felt great to let go, and just, it's weird. There's, a lot of time. I was like, you know what? It's just I wouldn't read that. It's awful. And I had the experience with this one that I would go back and read it and have to, keep lifting it up to where I've been. And I'm sure if I could, I have tons of edits in this now. I mean, there's lots of, every time I read, I see problems. But that said, it took about 5 years. I started in about 05, 06. I pitched 160 agents. One of them was like, I really like it, but you need to fix all this before I can take you on. So it took 3 months revising it for her on spec. gave it back, waited another couple months for her to read it, and then she took me, which is like critical because it's the first time someone in the business believes in it. So that was important to have. She's been terrific. I worked with her to keep editing it. She helped me get through 3 or 4 pretty significant revisions. And most agents don't do that. So if you're looking for an agent, I kind of have a younger, scrappier agent, and who also knows a lot of people. So it's been great. I hear complaints all the time. People are like, "Oh, my agent never called me back," or it's real slow. Or
Yeah, one of my friends, her mom's a novelist, and she finally got an agent, and it's poetry work, and the agent is just completely trying to like change everything about the book to try and make it more appealing to my friends just talking about.
It's frustrating because you're kind of used to being the god of this world, and then other people come in and they're like, "I want to be a god." I'm like, "I'm God." But that said, I would encourage her to be really open to. I go into this with the attitude that I am a rookie. I got a lot to learn, and throughout you can always learn. But these are the experts, so I listen, and they wouldn't take her on if they didn't believe in the underlying story. So definitely listen. I mean, my key was even when I ultimately got the deal, I got 30 rejections from publishers. I made a spreadsheet with all their complaints, and I color coded them, and I assembled them at the bottom. I identified the top 3 complaints. It was like too gross. So believe it or not, that's watered down. Too gross was one. Didn't care enough about the characters was one. I forget the third one. But the first 2 I spent a lot. So the first one was easy, just deleting things. I mean, it was like parts that were over the top, and I had read it so much. Even my agent had read it so much, she couldn't see it anymore. So I just deleted parts. That was pretty easy. Caring about the characters is a hard one, though. That's pretty vague to interpret in your own way. So I basically went through, like, how can I make this person more likable? Put yourself in their shoes a little bit more. Like, give them interesting hobbies, or make them friendlier at times. That was a hard one, but, that's the feedback people give. They don't say, "Oh, on page 32, I thought they should have gone left instead of right." They're going to say things like, the protagonist was a jerk. Didn't care about him, I had that reaction to the first season of The Office, the U.S. Office. And apparently a lot of people did, because they completely changed the character for season 2. And made Michael Scott a much more likable guy. And they listened to their feedback. So it was hard because you had to read between the lines, and they also are literary people, so they don't say, that was awful. They'll say, like, "Oh, wow, I really enjoyed it. We couldn't find a home and I couldn't get it through, but, some parts just kind of, a little over the top for me." That's how they frame it, like really subtle things where, like, really they want to say, "Disgusting, I hated it." So you have to had to pick that out. But listening to feedback was essential.
Last question, what's next?
So what's next? I'm working on a novel called Duct Tape. So this, unfortunately, no Bernal Heights scenes in it, for those of you who may live here. The next one does. It's called Duct Tape. It's about a homeless man in search of his imaginary son. And my agent's reading it right now. So it's kind of, I guess the inspiration there is you see all these homeless guys around San Francisco doing crazy things as if it were normal. And I wanted to get inside that head a little bit. Like, why does this seem normal to you? And there is a world where all of this makes perfect sense, and trying to get inside that mind with kind of the right intentions. So, insert your imaginary son. That's a good intention, on many levels. But you're acting it out a little bit, erratically. And it's different from this. This is definitely a sprawling saga. Make no mistake, this is a big kind of lot of things going on book. And the next one is one guy and going in his story. I just kind of got tired from having so many ends to make sure people could believe in. So I thought, let's dial it down, make it simpler. Yeah, make it simpler. The French Revolution itself was an ugly, messy thing that had a lot going on and never made perfect sense. So I got a lot of wiggle room because of that. But I needed something a little more organized after that. So And then the one after that I'm starting now, and if you guys have any great ideas, I'd love to steal them.